It never starts exactly when it says you're live. It's always half a second earlier. So, but welcome everyone. This is Callan LF, and I've been graciously joined by Eljay. And today I I have the screen for the stream up on. I'm gonna let it probably for the most part sit on my desktop screensaver. Uh, but um, but yeah, today I really thought it would be good to kind of talk about some of the community drama that I prompted, and I hope that through some real, you know, if we can just talk civilly about experiences, the history, the things that were discussed primarily in the video that really blew up as far as this community is concerned. Um, and we can hopefully come to an understanding on a few things. And within exactly an hour, I will be deleting and altering the videos as LJ requested. So, um, but yeah, up to that point, it's just really up to the two of us where this conversation goes. So, um, uh, I thought I'd just start by asking like a couple of just general requests to keep in mind. I don't think this will be a big issue, but um, I feel like in terms of the conversation, we'll probably get a little bit into some discussion of jokes and like what's funny and what's not, but I don't want to get too far into, like breaking down any one specific joke outside of AI usage being involved. Obviously, that's very important to this discussion. But outside of AI usage being involved, any other jokes, I feel like it's probably not going to be um, like a big. It's not necessarily going to be the best use of time. And then the other thing that I would like is that you know we're level here. We both are people. I think we both can agree that we've made some mistakes in our lives, and as we kind of address and bring them forward to one another, uh, based on my bad behavior, based on behavior that I did not appreciate in the past, that we not try and like immediately jump into, okay, well, hypocrite, hypocrite, hypocrite. Like if the answer is exploring and properly answering the question where hypocrisy is essentially being asked about, and then followed up with now that I've addressed that, what about your own hypocrisy here? That's all well and good, but I feel like if we just encourage an attitude of just I did you did this, well you did this, well you did this, then it's just gonna get not good fast. So that's really all I wanted to set up with at the start. Uh, did you have anything you wanted to start with, LJ?
Nope. For starters, this is actually me. For anyone curious, I am actually LJ. I'm speaking. This is not AI. Um, since I already had 32 minutes to make my statement, if you would like to rebut it or discuss it, go ahead.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that. Um, I think it would probably be best, similar to what you did. Oh, well, I guess you had the little preview, but in structure, you started off a little bit with a lot of the history of what's happened in between, and most of my questions have like very little to do with like anything specific as far as TTV going forward. But since TTV was one of the main things that kind of sparked tensions in the past, or rather connections and involvement with TTV, it's important that I just kind of touch on those things in the past. LG's a little quiet. Okay, let me real quick adjust that. Yeah, I think I've had people that had the desktop audio a little quieter because sometimes Skype, when I've used that, has been very loud. So, LJ, can you speak just to see if that's any better? Uh,
Testing, testing, testing.
that should be a lot better. It looks a lot better as far as my um, I might turn you down actually just a tad from there. So, all right, cool. Um, but yeah, back to background point. So the very first thing that you discussed in terms of the history stuff was the Mata stuff. That was all apt, accurate. We did a couple of videos together. Um, and I know that, or at least I'm pretty sure I've heard that there in the past, since there were like oftentimes as TTV in the classic heyday, there was like I heard that there was like an basically ever present call that people would kind of dip in and out of, at least at certain points where where there was just a lot of engagement as far as your group was concerned, in having conversations. You, generally not necessarily business heavy, but obviously that was included. I heard that somewhere that it's not necessarily pertinent, but it it my question is that when I never actually spoke to you directly after the TTV. I believe it was VAR who I spoke with. It's been so long that I actually can't specifically remember, but I'm pretty sure it was VAR who ended our collaboration as far as the CBW channel that existed was concerned. And I have more information to talk about on that in a minute. But if I could just clarify with a question, when were you first aware that like CBW was officially like done? Like we're not doing stuff? Because before that, I had been pushing. I can't remember who I was pushing the most, but I pushed a few times as far as doing more content together, and I hadn't gotten like much word back. Like I hadn't. It was a kind of a one-way street. We made the mod episode
So
there.
real quick, you're I don't know if this is a my thing or you thing. You're cutting out quite a bit.
Darn. That it's obviously because it's streaming from my computer. It sounds fine on the stream from the playback. I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check the chat and see if it is something that's going on there as well. Uh, huh. A little too loud now. I'll slightly lower. Um, um, doesn't look like anyone else is having like a serious issue as far as I can see. Um, or like no one's commenting about it. But yeah, that is going to be a problem. Uh,
It might be
I
because you are stream sharing to me.
yeah, yeah. Let me turn that off. Oh, oh, okay. I actually disconnected for a second, but I'm back.
Okay,
So,
that is
all
a
right.
lot better.
Okay, good. All right. Yeah. Okay. That I screen shared to show him something, but um, back on point. So, short version of the question. My initial understanding of any kind of drama um, with with TTV started when uh, you guys had made a song parody called "Counting Parts," and I believe VAR sang it. And uh, my friends and I, who were running CBW at the time, they particularly thought it was a rather silly idea, and so they wanted to make a song parody and I was, I'm not absolving myself. I thought it was a funny idea to make the song parody, so we made it, and that was the first thing that we did in terms of some kind of CBW content that was um, a little bit off from the kind of things that we made prior, mostly Mata and some other little update type things. Um, and and I recall that as far as my recollection, that that it was pretty much instantly that video that uh, when I reached out to VAR and you guys about content again, that you guys basically told me that we're done, like, and that was it. Do you remember anything specific about that? um i'm not I'm not holding any tension from that, um and like that is so long ago, but I just feel like some clarification of that would help with some of the information that I have that was a little bit different than what you presented in your video.
Different than what I presented?
Yes.
All right. So here's the thing. Um, I've said quite a lot in that video,
Mm-hmm.
and to be perfectly honest and blunt with you, I'm happy to discuss whatever you would like. All of this, right? Um, this stream was not my idea. None of this being super public was what I wanted. So again, I'm happy to discuss whatever you'd like, but I'm going to be pretty consistent here. In order to do that in good faith, I'm still going to need both those voices removed.
Yeah,
So
that will be done.
please remove my voice from your channel, and then yeah, I'm
Okay,
down to have a conversation.
you're asking that we don't do the hour that I requested initially, that I just jump right to it.
I mean, if you want to stick to the hour, like we can stick to the hour, and then once it's done, then yeah,
I
I'm down to
that's
continue
that
and have a
that
conversation.
So are you saying instead that you just kind of want to sit here until that hour?
If you
Then
want to
if
offer a
that's
rebuttal and give your side to things, then that's completely acceptable. And then once my voice has been removed from your channel, then yeah, we can go ahead and continue and have an open and honest conversation.
all right. I will continue to discuss my point of view as far as uh this your opinion there, and the standard. Um so my position in terms of, and I laid this out a little bit in some of our private messages, I believe mostly in the ones that took place after what you showed in your video, um, but probably a little bit in some of those as well. That the reason why I've not jumped to just comply with your request is primarily because of factors. I believe I did lay this out in screenshots that are in the video that were more blunt and unkind, but I do have my reasons for this. With a lot of the history, I wanted to go over some of that first because uh, it kind of informs where we're at right now. And where we're at is that we've really never been close friends. We were communicating a little bit and trading voices and stuff at the beginning of the TTV CBW collaborations. But before or after that, I just didn't hear from you like at all. It was basically like when Vardaran said we're done. Uh, I was very frustrated about that at the time, uh, and I never heard any kind of word about like, yeah, like it was basically like I'd never even known you, which is not a problem because we hadn't even had much of a, you know, discussions up to that point. But it definitely made the prompting, the origin of that first video, an idea in my mind, especially as I was a rather immature teenager, still holding on to that grudge at the time. And because even though we weren't really close, I was still kind of like taken aback. Like, so you guys didn't tell us why we were not doing any more videos together, why CBW was cut off. Like to me it seemed obvious that it had to do with the song parody, but it was very much a like, no, we're done. Um, and your video presents it that we'd already started doing a bunch of like crazy, silly stuff, uh, essentially making a mockery of everything we built up on that channel with a bunch of uh, trolling moves and tactics. And that stuff in full didn't actually happen for, I want to say, at least a couple months later. And there's some backstory behind all that. Essentially, the creator of the channel, who was a high-ranking admin of CBW, and had a falling out with people from CBW, and wanted to take over the channel and rebrand it as our own custom Bionicle channel. uh, they kind of leaned into with our other contributors doing a bunch of the trolley kind of stuff. But that again, like the song parody that started everything was before we really started having a laugh with that channel. And for the record, I guess I probably should have started with this. I didn't delete that YouTube channel. You brought that information forward. I'm not sure where you got that information. It was probably just an assumption with Mata being the main content that was on the channel, but um, I never had any direct ownership or leadership of the channel outside of producing the Mata episodes. I had full control of making the Mata episodes on the channel, um, but I never had any other decision making in terms of the other content that we made solely like obviously I if I was making it, I could have probably put it out there and mentioned to people. But since it was mostly a couple of my friends, one of them who's not in the Bionicle community anymore and doesn't wish to be known or associated with the community anymore, uh, it was with them that I always had to like get approval that we worked on stuff, and they ended up the person who was the admin of the channel chose to delete that channel. This is probably the first time any. I'm not sure. I would imagine that some people in this chat were around for some of that stuff, but most of you maybe not. But either way, this is probably the first time some of you have heard this. That yes, the channel was deleted by a contributor to the channel who was the owner. That they deleted of their own accord. They didn't tell any of us at the time. We were all confused about it. Um, and yeah, for privacy reasons, I'm protecting this person's identity because I don't want to be associated with the community. And they've completely shifted what they do online. And yeah, it was at least months or a year after the channel was even deleted that we got confirmation of what had happened. We could only speculate after it was deleted what actually happened to the channel. So I wanted to clear that up as far as anyone who is interested in a lot of the information presented in the video. Um, I'm taking a second to get my brain back together in terms of where I should go from there. I guess I'll pivot that back to uh, my content, or rather to the history with the video that I created, the Mata episode. So for the full context, you're I can wipe away the conspiracies. You mentioned what basically one of the outcomes that was possible in your video briefly. I'll elaborate that yes, that is what happened. My voice actor for Liwa that I'd gotten, I started with iBionicle when I made the channel back in the day. iBionicle was notoriously busy at the time and became a little less reliable after months, understandably so. So I ended up looking through voice actor boards and found Toddy Harold, Jaunty Jig to voice Liwa. And only in recent, I believe in the last year, did I find out, not any specifics, but I found out that he had had a really hard time through some of his teen years. Um, I believe starting after Mata, and there was a point when CBW was deleted and gone, and I was moving everything back to my channel, and I was starting to make new content that I was or wanting to get back into making more Mata content, that I was going through and trying to contact my voice actors and figure out what videos I could do. Well, Tiny Harold was nowhere to be seen. He wasn't responding to his emails. He was probably right in the midst of some really tough times. So I thought, okay, well, I guess I have to recast. And that is why I went to this casting call club site. It was a newer one compared to the ones I'd used at the time, and it looked interesting. And I thought it was very, very bizarre and felt like almost cheeky, I guess is probably the most ambiguous or the most reading into intent neutral word I could use. It felt cheeky that you would audition a year or so after. It, it couldn't have been much more than a year after all the CBW stuff happened, because of course it was all in the midst of G2 coming about in 2015, and I believe that video was made in 2017. So yeah, I guess it was about a year and a half later. Because I did actually take a couple months after. Um, so yeah, I was confused and being a stinker, more than a stinker. I did something horribly unethical. I uh, asked you to record a couple of different test lines to reuse in a context that you were not aware of. They were, as far as you knew, just test concepts. Um, at most, you probably assumed that they would have been like an animation test or something, or that I would have just animated Liwa next to him. That was very deceptive. It was very unkind thing to do. And I did it, uh, doing it I did it because it felt like the edgy prank thing to do. Uh, and I believe that I need to go back and look at the specifics of the timeline. Um, um, but I want to say there was since the, yeah, I'm trying to actually remember. Yeah, I'm trying to put the timeline in my head when it doesn't really make that big of a difference, but it was at least a month or two after a lot of the initial Harvey Weinstein allegations had occurred and really blown up the Me Too movement. And since I'd finally gotten back in contact with Toddy Harold, who I guess had caught up with stuff and reached back out, uh, the stars aligned to do something nasty and unkind in a way that I thought would be trolling and kind of funny. And it was not very funny. I don't even think the video's particularly great. Um, it's better than a lot of the older mod episodes, but and the edgy joke is with your appearance is probably um, the most notable thing about it to this point. But I will like I'm not defending what I did, but I will defend that this was not me. I believe you mischaracterized the extremity of that joke in your video, and when you got very heated about it, because it's very clearly a joke. The line of dialogue isn't, or that I got you to say isn't, oh, yep, you got me, lock me up, or something like that. It's complete denial. So is there implication that you're just denying something, that, or that the character, that the parody version fitting you in, and playing off of the Liwa joke, the Liwa LJ very much being your favorite character, and looking exactly the same except for the gold mask. It's playing into that joke as well, and it's you denying that it's so it could equally be read as Lee was lying to Tahu and suggesting that that this other guy, that he was able to work it, that this other guy got caught when the other guy's innocent. With the Weinstein playing into the, okay, probably not, and it's the other interpretation of it, that okay, yeah, he's denying it, but he's been caught red-handed. So was it an unwise choice, and it's very unkind, uh, as I put it back in the day, sociopathic thing to do to someone who did not consent and have any knowledge of that joke? Yes, I admit that. And I apologize for it back in the day. I completely understand how that apology uh, is seen as invalid or not enough to you, particularly at the time. Um, but I was, since you kind of took it on the chin and moved on, and you explained that it was, I mean, again, this is part of the reason why I wanted to have a call like this. When you're having a chat message, you explained that your laugh was like a, like I can't read that when you tell me that you laughed in the chat. Um, I have no idea that that's what you're saying. And so the message I got back in that day that, as unkind as it was to do, it was clearly understood as an unkind joke that you didn't really appreciate, but didn't like destroy your life. It didn't add tons and tons of stress. I would be very surprised to find out that more than 5 people have asked you about that cameo in the years since it happened. Um, um, and yeah, you can very easily make the argument. Does like even if nobody saw it, even if it doesn't matter, like does that make it good? Does that mean you should be able to keep it up? No, and I'm not necessarily arguing that I shouldn't take it down. I'll stop essentially rambling around um, a lot of the history with that and get to the point that I made to you a little bit, that the reason why I've not wanted to take those videos down is one, basic principles that I would really like to not alter my content that I put out at the time. Like, I made a bunch of crappy videos all across the years. Very, very few of them I've actually felt embarrassed enough to unlist or hide. And usually, even when I have, people have found out and then gotten me to share them again. Um, so I don't like pretending things didn't happen or rewriting stuff that happened. Uh, because it feels like a dishonest thing to do with myself in terms of the development I've had on this channel. This channel is not a very, it's become slightly more professional in terms of some of the handlings, the dealings that I've done over the recent years, but it's really still very much a hobby that makes a little change on the side. So it's not some kind of big, um, it's not, you could argue that it's not something that I should take such pride in, that I need to kind of keep historical accuracy of such things. But I feel like if it's something that I put a lot of time into and that I had a reason for doing it, or if it's whatever it was, that I put it out there at the time and I was proud of it at the point that I published it. And in the context of that video especially, I thought, okay, well, I don't really feel good about what I did to LJ here, but I do feel like this episode justifies its existence. It's still like a joke. It's a few modded jokes. It's the entire episode doesn't revolve around bullying you or disparaging your character. I can very easily cut that joke out because of that. Um, and so I just always kind of assumed, especially with all the silence and the lack of any real direct communication outside of a couple of comments in the midst of later little dramas, I just kind of assumed that that video was what it was. It was an unkind thing, but it's just sitting there, and it's recorded for anyone to see and look at the comments, see what you said, and see that what I did wasn't cool. And anyone who watches that video in retrospect can understand exactly what's going on, and based on what the comments were saying, um, and and if they had any sense of reaching out to me to ask, to tell me how bad that was, they could. Frankly, I just thought the video kind of fell into irrelevancy and didn't really matter that much anymore. But it was something that as standard practice, especially when doing something um, and making jokes with people that are not, I'm not actively invested in. They're not invested in me. They don't really care about me as a person in the same way that I don't really care about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. There's no point in censoring that kind of past involvement, even though the way I did it was pretty unethical. Uh, and that's where it's interesting that like the AI usage with the new short is where the focus of the real anger at the AI aspect of it is the heart of, I believe that's the heart of what made that video do very well, because it tapped into a lot of people's concerns with AI in particular. I think that a lot of people agreed and understood, and they got a very play-by-play narrative of our interactions in the past that really painted the picture that that I'm obsessed in a way that's so obvious now, because you put them side by side. How could I have been so crazy in being such an obsessive fan when in reality these happened at different points throughout throughout, being with years apart in between each other, prompted on something you did, something I did, or whatever, or a response in reaction to uh, either each other, in that instance reaching out to audition, or in some of the other things, seeing your coverage of something we didn't care for, or that we took some we the song parody aspect. I thought it would be funny to just kind of make fun that the whole Faber situation and the anger that I saw at the time was very overblown to me. And uh and and following that, uh, the comments that you and Mezenak made in response to a fan question being very obviously in reference to me, and honestly pretty nasty. Like I wasn't hurt, like I didn't have my feelings hurt given the interactions that had happened before that, but pretty unbecoming of a professional pair of podcasters who are trying to talk about, Bionicle, Ninjago, official Lego contents, and any topics that come to mind, and answering fan questions. Uh, it's there's I found that to be rather unprofessional, and something that that was easy to poke fun at, because because as something that I believe I mentioned in uh, one of my messages, I the lead up to how all of this played out specifically uh, comes down to me feeling like you're a bit pretentious in the way you reach out, the way you think about yourself in this community, the way you communicate with people who are not your friends in this community. And I say that as someone who is somewhat pretentious himself, or I feel like I can very easily get pretentious in my own mind. I try and curb that quite a bit. Um, so I'm going to take a quick drink of water just because this is not what I was expecting. um, so to get my brain back together, I probably would have been better served taking full notes ahead of time, but my intention was this to be conversational and to explore, a lot of these details together in ways that people are actually, you know, like they can learn what was going on in your head when making your video, and they can understand my perspective on things that were said in your video.
Which, again, I am willing to do. Like, I'm not gonna just bail and leave, because
But
I
you are
said I would be
aware,
here. I said I'd have the conversation, but I am only willing to have that conversation in good faith once my voice has been removed from your channel.
yeah, and uh, you realize that is not what you agreed to previous to this, to making this happen. And so
I
you're
agreed to be here, and you stated that you'd remove it in an hour. I am complying by the terms of our agreement.
the terms of our agreement, to be clear, were, and I will read them now because he's as far uh, as you asking about them. So I said that I'm ushering no ultimatums here, and I will offer that regardless of where we are 1 hour into the live call, I'll edit the MODA and delete the review live for everyone to see. All right, assuming you keep your word, then we'll do a call for 1 hour into it, and you edit the 2018 short and delete the short. And we're not doing a 59-minute, 59-second call. So you clarified that I would pull that as far as pulling a fast one on you. And you're, essentially using the fact that you didn't promise to talk to me in a call uh, as a way of pulling a fast one on me now ahead of the understood agreement to me.
I will discuss this with you. I'm not saying that I won't. I will discuss it. I am completely fine having an open and honest conversation, and I'm hearing what you're telling me, and I have things to talk about and discuss. But again, until my voices are removed, I will wait until the hour.
All right.
So
Well,
please remove my voice from your channel. Please
I
remove my voice from your channel, and then we will have a conversation.
all right. Well, I will uphold my side of the agreement. Uh, but before we do that, I'm going to start a poll, and just out of curiosity, see if people are, feel a little bit like you know, you're essentially not honoring your word here, because I think it's pretty fair to say that you're not.
I don't think that's accurate. I think I'm doing everything that I have been asked to do.
All right. Well, let's see.
Again, I am completely willing to have a conversation about this, an open and honest conversation. And I've been listening to everything you've been saying, and I have things to comment, I have things to respond with. But I am, as I have been, asking you to remove my voice from your channel so that we can have that conversation in good faith.
All right. Well, I mean, I can't change that, but I'm curious what people have to say. It's interesting. You got the yeses to start, but it's pretty close. Well, it's not. It's 64% say that you are honoring, but 38% are saying no. 60-40. That poll is incomprehensible. I only have 100 characters to work with, I'm afraid. So, sorry. My brother said he's losing his poll. That's fair. Hey, I just want to see what people are thinking. Um, my friend IDS said if he's not going to talk, just take him down early. There's no point of this otherwise if he's sitting in silence, man. Yeah. All right. You know what? Uh, I, 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 all right. Fair enough. You know what? I don't. I personally feel like you have been deceptive in the way that you communicated with me. Um, and if, but you know what? Yeah, it's real. At the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. Um, The only thing I'll say before I delete it was that the other reason why I was not prompted doing this earlier is because I very much, I find free speech very much important. And you can argue that as far as all the discussion that we'll get into about AI stuff, that I'm violating that in a way by taking your voice without permission. That my interpretation of what a public figure entails doesn't absolve me. I understand all that. Either way, um, I that is what I stood by, and that is why I didn't. It was a combination of that and the very unkind words that the very unkind way you came at me to start with this, uh, as if, I mean, based on the history that we've laid out, there's more to discuss. I get that there's oh, sorry, I have a yawn coming on. Ugh, and a burp. I apologize. Um, but if people are going to sort of mask a request as a request and then essentially say, I'm asking you to do this, and when the answer is no, then turn around and say, well, actually, no, I'm not asking, I'm demanding. And and they're not even demanding in a way that the terms are fully understood by presenting the threat of making a video ahead of communication. Then yeah, I didn't respect that, and I'd like to get into that. So video's gone, and the video change is being processed. I believe everyone could see that happen on screen. That the video being processed. Okay, I just pulled up the screen. Now that is seen. So, all right. Are you willing to talk now?
Okay. Yes. I will ask that people double check both of these things. Please check that the video is gone. Please check that the change has been made in the 2018 video, which I do understand is going to take a moment because
It's probably
edits to
going to
YouTube
take
videos.
hours. Just saying, like that.
And,
Well,
and
maybe they fixed that, but I don't know.
it should be less time. But
Okay, good.
regardless, I'm going to ask. So for starters, thank you. That is all I was asking. Thank you for removing my voice from your channel. That was my request. Again, I'm staying. I'm not leaving. I'm here to have a conversation. Okay?
Appreciate it.
Okay. So if you'd like, we can go ahead and start at the beginning if you wanted to cover the CBW stuff, which wasn't so my goal was not to dredge drama in all of this. My goal was simply that I had been wronged and I was not interested in making a public spectacle. I was very angry about what had happened, and that's why I came to you first about this. If you'd like, we can start with the CBW stuff because there are some things that you would ask me some questions, and I'm willing to go and answer those questions for you.
All right, I appreciate it.
Okay. Did you want to re-ask those questions? Do you want me to try and remember them?
I'll
Can go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I'll start with what do you remember specifically around um, the first communications of, or like really the communications of us trying to work together? I think is probably a good place to start in terms of me asking for uh, you guys to contribute to content that was on our channel as well. What do you remember about that?
So what I recall from the CBW and TTV agreement was that we were going to collaborate and have two different we were going to have videos on each other's channels. Obviously enough, there was the Mata skit that was hosted on the TTV channel. You were also in one of my recap skits, and we were going to brainstorm some videos for the CBW channel as well. So around that time, I don't recall the exact timeline, but what I recall is around that time, G2 was starting to come to the surface. It was about to be revealed. We got extremely busy with that. you had reached out. I cannot explain why we didn't get around to talking to you about it further. I know that we were all very busy at the time. I was working, others were in school.
Right. Yeah.
There was a
Totally.
lot at that time. Um, the channel ended up going sideways. I don't recall any grievance about the song. I don't recall that being a contentious point. I'm not saying that it was not. I'm just saying that is not something I recall. We were disappointed to see that the channel's focus and the content hosted on it had shifted so dramatically in a way we did not see a future with. So we opted to end the agreement with CBW.
Do you
I do
remember?
recall that you took a significant grievance with that. It
Okay.
wasn't a personal thing. We weren't trying to dig at you. We weren't trying to be like, "Ha, got him." It was simply we were not looking to continue the CBW and TTV collaboration.
Um. Well, that's fair. Yeah. No, but the question is that if you have or recall having any kind of conversations about that, and I'm pretty sure that VAR was my main point of contact in being informed about this change and me protesting it. And was there any reason why I was not reached out to by any other TTV members, including yourself, who I believe you were my main point of contact into even working with TTV from the start, or at least a combination of you and
It
perhaps VAR?
it was a group chat, and the I think 4 members that were present were myself, Var, Meso, and Kahi.
Right.
So that I don't remember there being any individual points of contact. You said at one point it was Var, at one point it was me. It was a group chat with I think like 8 people.
All right. Well, yeah. Fair enough. I'm not going to get into litigating again. I'm not even angry about that stuff anymore. It's clearly had a weird evolution from there in terms of me. Uh, yeah, letting that grudge go, and then but unfortunately the jokes from there uh informing the appearance of that grudge being the heart of everything that's happened between us. So, but my question is, as far as when you saw, since you didn't bring up that aspect, the fact that you didn't reach out to me in any way, there was no communications with me in any kind after breaking that up. Um, uh, uh, I guess I'll ask real quick. Like, I'm not trying to gotcha, but like, what made you want to just say outright without knowing that I deleted the channel?
I don't believe I said that I deleted it. I said that you nuked it. I didn't mean that to be conveyed in
You
a
said that
you
I deleted the
deleted it.
channel, I'm pretty sure. I made
Here, can you bring up the timestamp?
okay.
I don't because I know I said that the channel was nuked. I did not. I apologize if I misspoke. I didn't mean that to say you deleted it. All I remember was the content shifted dramatically.
Yeah, and I was never asked about any of that. So you wouldn't have you'd have no idea that I'm the person responsible for that content shift, would you? Would you?
Sure, no, and you know what? That's totally fair. Yeah, I had no way of knowing. However, I did establish that you were a primary contributor to it.
Right.
Did you sing the Okoto song?
I did.
Okay. So, and again, I don't remember this Okoto song.
Fair
I
enough.
don't I don't recall it being a point of contention at all.
Fair
But
enough.
I've had a lot of people over the years suggest that I'm like the head of TTV or I
Right.
am like the one running the show,
Right.
which isn't true. I've never been there. We've never had a sole head of TTV. It's been a collaborative effort, but a lot of people have a perception of me being like
The guy.
in charge of it, which is not the case.
Yeah.
Uh,
Fair enough.
when it comes to CBW, I don't recall discussing things with a lot of the other contributors. I do recall talking to you a lot,
In
and
the
I
early
recall
days,
you
I do
taking
recall, yeah.
I recall you taking that decision extremely hard. You were very upset about it.
I was,
And
yeah,
so
at the time.
when you say that we didn't reach out afterwards, well, for starters, our collaboration was done and you were very upset. That isn't a way to engage further with any possible collaborations. Additionally, again, we were done with a collaboration, and our content was something that took our attention. We were really ramping things up. TTV was growing at an extremely fast rate. So there wasn't anything more to discuss.
I get that from a business perspective, 100%. But given the nature of just generally being friendly and communicative before that, while not being friends specifically, and not having that kind of a relationship, uh, I recall you mentioning as far as like I know that you and Mezenek are actually close friends. So when in the midst of your being removed due to Kahi's manipulation in that whole saga, he communicated with you that like, oh, like I'm still your friend. I still got your back. I know this is kind of crazy what's happening right now, but I'm he sent you a message basically being like, hey, whatever's going on in the public, I like I'm still, I don't hate you or anything. And
Mhm.
in that case, being close friends, I am your friend and I've got your back. I just can't really do anything
Mhm.
about it right now, given the group dynamic. Uh, so I wasn't your close friend, but so there was no thought in your mind about saying anything like, "Hey, I'm sorry. The way that group is being run is really unprofessional. We just can't deal with that kind of thing. If you want to reach out any more and like about doing voices in your content, I'm happy to look at it on a case by case basis and be there. Or you like, I'm sorry that this has turned out this way, but yeah, we just can't be associated with this channel based on
So
our group standards.
in regards, so there's an extraordinary difference in these situations.
Sure,
When it comes to Meso has been my best friend for over a decade. Like
fair
we
enough.
have been friends for I think around 15 years. That is a situation which was deeply personal, and it was not just Meso posting a public comment. Like we've talked almost every single day for again over a decade.
That's good.
When it came to you and TTV and CBW, we were collaborators. Like we were associates. We didn't hang out on the regular. We were not like regular friends. We were not a part of each other's friends groups. And again, what I recall, and I don't have the specifics on me, and I'm not trying to claim any specifics,
Yeah,
what I recall was that you were extremely upset by the decision and you were like outwardly outwardly angry about it.
yeah.
And again, we did not have the kind of relationship that would suggest at any point that I'm going to break away from TTV's decision to end a collaboration to console you about the end of the collaboration.
All
And if
right.
you wanted to continue a collaboration, I mean, fair enough. I'm sure we would have been open to discussing it, but you were extraordinarily upset and you were very, very angry about this.
Okay, yeah, I completely accept that. As far as just not it would make more sense to me if you were particularly uncomfortable about reaching out, if you're laying that out, because the thing that makes less sense to me is why, especially with you emphasizing the degree of being upset I was at that, why when sending an audition 2 years later for my Mata show, uh, that would not come to mind as being a potential sticking point in terms of reaching out to me again.
So
And real
we
quick,
can go
if I
ahead
could
and
finish the question,
go ahead.
and why, in the context of doing an honest breakdown of everything I've done in the past with you, that would not be worth mentioning the degree of upsetness from our collaboration being ended, and how that wasn't worth mentioning in your video that is something that was in your review. I was really upset a couple years ago, so, and then you just randomly sent me an audition out of the blue.
Sure. No, and you know what? I think I can clear a lot of this up. So for starters, your timeline is inaccurate. It was not 2 years; it was 4. So the collaboration ended in 2014. I sent my audition. Let
It
me
was
see
late
when I uploaded
2017, so
it.
yeah, pretty close to four, but like
This it was December. Yeah, December of 2017. Yeah, so it was roughly. I don't. It might have been like 3.5,
it was
but it was closer to
closer to
4 years.
3 years because of all the G2 stuff happening in the fall of 2014. So
Again, I don't remember the exact month to
I
month,
mean, you got to
but
remember the original black and white leaks were July, like the third for first of July, I believe,
uh,
or
June.
maybe,
But yeah, sure. I
or was
don't
it
know
June? Yeah.
when the collaboration between TTV and CBW ended and when this all fell apart. So broad strokes, we'll round it to 3.5 years, to be fair.
We're doing math at this. It doesn't matter.
Sure.
It's been it
Um,
was years of
so
difference. Plenty of time for me to get over it.
year
But
years of difference. It to me, and this was really the point I was making in my video, because you have over the years alluded to beef or tension or drama or what have you for a significant amount of time. And
do you have any
the
receipts on me
only
beef? It's referring to beef?
I I'm just using that as a term. I don't know if it
Because
was a specific
I
term you
like
used.
I've if you recall, the main videos I made about you on the channel were highlight videos with like jokes that don't
I
discuss us having beef.
Like I said, I don't. So here,
Me making a song
let's
parody in 28. Just be clear. A
let
couple of
let,
highlight.
let me
All
get
right. All
back to my original point
right. Okay. Fair
to
enough.
address the whole audition thing. We'll get to that in a second.
All right.
Because there are some people in the chat thinking I'm being pedantic for correcting timelines and whatnot, but there is a point to it.
Okay.
There's a reason for it.
All right.
So the reason I wanted to clarify the timeline is because the greater amount of time that passes informs my headspace. So at the time, again, I didn't hold any kind of a grudge. I did not. It wasn't a personal thing against you or anyone from CBW whatsoever. So when I auditioned, it was purely, honestly, just to participate and be a part and help. That was it. There wasn't a malicious action against it. I did not think, oh, wow, Callan, I'm sure he's very upset about what happened before. There's no way, there's no way he would ever take me. I simply, earnestly just auditioned and didn't really think a lot of it. I just thought, okay, hey, we can talk. If there's any bad blood, we'll settle it. Which is why it caught me extremely off guard when you reached out just about the audition
Yep.
to con me out of voice lines to use nefariously in one of your videos. You are saying like, "Hey, why didn't you lead with that? Why didn't you reach out and be like, "Hey, sorry," because A, I didn't think there was an outstanding grudge, and B, the same can be said. It's a two-way street. Why didn't you also be like, "Hey, I see you've auditioned. I'm still upset about this," or "Hey, I want to clear the air on this." Right?
Yeah.
So to
No.
me, it wasn't a thing. I didn't have oh gee, Callan's gonna still be pretty mad about that stuff. It
I
wasn't
aware.
like
I
that.
get it. Yeah. That you. Um. I and you at the end of the day, that's not that's not like a huge grievance at this point. Um, I
And see, so
but
real quick,
it does
what isn't
inform
a
the
huge
narrative.
grievance?
Um, well, it's I'd say as far as this video is concerned, it's a grievance that you didn't care to mention the honest full timeline as far as how things had played out.
As far
As
as
far
what?
as me being upset. You've mentioned multiple times now about how upset you remember me being at that time, uh, and why you didn't think that was relevant in telling an honest and accurate characterization of our past. Uh, and
So
I'd also
I think I appropriately conveyed that you were upset when I suggested that you had a grudge about what had happened with the CBW and TTV collaboration ending.
mm, right.
Because no one that so you to me, based on what you're saying and what you're telling me, it seems like you have put a lot of time and thought into that situation. And the reason why I didn't put a large focus on that situation was twofold. One, because we didn't think a lot about it. I have not given it that degree of thought because, again, it was not personal. I didn't hold a grudge against you for anything. It wasn't a personal matter. We simply opted to end the collaboration. Second, that wasn't meant to dredge up old drama. It was meant to inform a greater perspective of mine that I was working to illustrate. So I was trying to show that as the origin point of strife. This is where we started not to get along, and now here's the next thing where that seems to continue, and the next thing where that seems to continue. It was to show a pattern of behavior. It was not to try and suggest that I'm in any way upset about what had happened. I understand that you are upset about what had happened. And again, I was willing to discuss it. You have never approached me to discuss the CBW situation, but it seems like you have given it a great deal of thought.
The main reason why I'm giving it more thought here tonight is I gave it more thought at the time when I was more upset about it when I was younger. Yeah, but it's really played very little aspect on my life, to be clear. And the only reason I'm exploring it here is just so that we can cover, all the information as broadly covered in your video and just clarify a lot of the information on it. So, I can overall accept your, well, that's even a bad way of phrasing it, but yeah, I trust your version of accounting and the memory of those things. I think you zoomed through it a bit in your video in a way to characterize yourself as guiltless as possible, and I I feel like most people would at the very least say that as an organization that has prided yourselves on being professional in the past, that trying to keep good relations with people as you end agreements is better than just saying no, 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 and then cut. Best handled back in the day. I'm just out of curiosity.
So I cannot speak to the specifics of its handling. Again, this isn't something that I've given a significant amount of thought. I don't recall the exact way it was handled.
Well, based
So,
on
but
at least based
I'll
on my characterization, like
so
if I'm correct, which again maybe I put way too much thought into it, but based on the characterization and the characterization that you admitted that I was very upset, like I'm talking specifically, a guy is upset. He's upset. Maybe say something to him to be like,
so
I'm sorry it's got to be with this way, but
here's the other thing. And this is what I actually addressed in my very first message to you regarding this current AI situation.
mm-hmm.
All right. My point was that if you did have a beef, it was with children, that people, versions of people that do not exist. Because bear in mind, I don't know how old you were at the time, but I know everyone in TTV, we were all kids. So when you talk about TTV priding itself on professionalism and being like this arbiter of business and being professional and whatnot, again, for starters, we were kids. We were
Right.
not professionals in 2014 by any stretch of the imagination. And quite frankly, we haven't been professionals. We have been incredibly fortunate to be a part of some pretty cool things, going to Lego events,
Yeah.
getting to meet with fans at conventions and stuff like that. Like it's been a blast, right? But I guess this is kind of a mask off moment. We were not professionals,
Yeah.
and I can't say how many times we claimed to be versus claimed not to be. I'm not speaking to that, but in regards to what you're saying, again, we were literal children.
All right. Yeah. Okay. And ultimately, we need to move off this because I, I, it's definitely been a sticking point to me in the past. I'm not trying to deny that. I'm getting sort of impassioned about it now, just to try and, follow through with like the whole timeline of things. And I really appreciate you framing it that way because, uh, that's another aspect of you coming to me, as far as this most recent situation, and laying that out like that, is that you've continued to you spread that this beef that you see as a one-sided beef with all of you as a group is solely because of that grudge, and I feel like that has completely washed out the thought of there being any reason for you guys needing like criticism or any kind of valid criticism that has come with particularly the Faber situation, which was really, unless I'm mistaken, that was the only time before you guys referenced me on your podcast other than this LJ Johnson line nastiness
So
with
I
mock.
can speak to that for a moment if you'd like.
Yes, I would love that.
Sure. Okay. So just a little bit of backstory for everyone. You, actually, Callan, you had mentioned that we had talked about you on a Knack and J
Yes.
because someone asked us a question. Is that consistent?
Yeah, I believe the framing of it, and there's a YouTube channel named Creepy Biotube Stalker
Uh huh.
who clipped it, and he does very good stop motion analysis, um, and uh, and so he clipped it and made some jokes about it, and
Okay.
um, and so that was what brought it to my attention, and why we then made some
Okay.
there. I think there
So
might have was there some
I
yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
so I
Help fill
I
in some gaps.
cannot speak. I can't speak to the exact question, the context of how I was asked or anything like that. I don't even remember what we said. Uh, if I'm recalling correctly, and I want to stress, I do not recall the exact phrasing. If I recall correctly, we didn't name you. We alluded to an issue that existed because at this point, if it was about Faber, it was on a Knack and Jay podcast. Knack and Jay is a podcast between myself and Meso. It's strictly a Bionicle podcast. It started in late 2019. The Faber stuff continued into kind of spring of 2020, which would be after the situation in which you used my voice to make a Harvey Weinstein allegory,
Right.
which to us, of course, at that
Uh,
point seemed like, all right, well,
it's a
that
joke.
strikes us as a very malicious action. So clearly there's still some bad blood. So when we were asked about, and again, I don't know, I'm going to assume it was about you specifically. We didn't name you on purpose, if I'm recalling correctly,
Do
because
you,
we
do,
did not want to bring attention to you. We did not want to continue to stir up drama. And then you announced it was you that we were talking about to bring it to the public.
Well, and yes, that is broadly correct. But the
Okay.
reason why it was incredibly obvious to me was because, and to probably a number of people, especially the creepy Biotube Stalker character, the channel. I don't know who runs it, but he very heavily edited it, the visuals around your audio to have my logo poking out as you're describing things.
Okay, we
Uh,
didn't do that.
yeah, no, I know that. I'm not.
We A, we
We're
didn't do that, and B, like I think it's kind of interesting to see a lot of these comments in especially my video about all of this. A lot of people did not know there was a beef. They also, but if they did know there was a beef, they didn't know the context. They had only heard it from you.
right. Well, the reason why they heard it from me is because if you recall specifically, what you guys said was,
I don't.
our uh, Mezzo was. You were like, there's one stop motioner, one big stop motioner who he really hates us, and he's like a moth to the flame. He's like a little
Mhm.
gremlin. He like went, hey guys, what's going on? And he looks hideous. That was though those were all your exact words. Uh,
Okay.
so like even if you think it's professional that you didn't name me when like entertaining this question and elaborating, oh yes, there is because the guy asked that actually helps clarify. The guy asked why you guys have beef with the stop motion community, and it's because you guys haven't had a lot of other stop motion channels on, and you clarified that in the answer to the question. You name dropped some good people who make some good stuff, so that was all well and good. It was the fact that you thought that somehow when answering a question about the stop motion community that making specific references and calling someone in the community hideous who's a moth to the flame. It's a very odd characterization because other than the other than making the song parody criticizing your Faber standpoints ahead of that, like I've left you guys alone. Like
You
I called you guys out when I've seen there were things that I thought you guys did silly stuff.
okay? Bear in
So
mind, you you didn't leave us alone. This interaction happened in maybe 2020,
yeah,
which is 2 years after you took my voice and used it to make a Harvey Weinstein allegory.
it's a joke, man. You gotta
I'm
get
okay. How? Okay. That isn't a vindicating factor. You don't just get to say, "Huh, it's just a joke, guys," and it make it okay. That isn't how that works, right?
Uh,
You tell me
all
how
right.
you would feel if someone took your voice and made a comparison to a person that you found demonstrably evil.
Personally, like this is the honest to God truth. I would be like, oh gosh, I must have really ticked them off,
Okay,
or
I don't
like
believe that because you are upset about me allegedly calling you a gremlin and saying that you're hideous.
well,
A significantly lower bar, by the way.
no, I wasn't upset. I thought it was so funny that you guys were bringing that up and like trying to be so coy about it when it was obvious that it was me and
It was
like
obvious to you because
it.
you would know who we're referencing. That doesn't mean it's obvious to a general audience
I found
because
that
we didn't want to bring attention to you. We didn't want to continue public drama, but we wanted to at least address the question.
yeah.
You see,
Well,
when I say moth to a flame, it's because you wouldn't be able to resist bringing attention to yourself because of what we said, which is exactly what happened. You fulfilled the prophecy.
I fulfilled the prophecy. Wait, sorry. Can you clarify the prophecy?
I mean, that is a joke. That is in
What?
reference to how I said, "You're a moth to a flame," because we were even alluding to you.
Well,
You
technically,
inferred it to be about you, so you drew attention to it being you, even though we did not name you.
now, here's the interesting question, and here's where I'm going to catch you at least a little bit. Like as far as the context of does this has this really made a difference? Does it really make a difference if you put it out there at all? Because this is the argument that you're going to make with my little AI joke that I thought was very very tame and didn't really besmirch you in any way. It was a self-deprecating joke, and we'll get into that in a bit. But the reason why that's a hypocritical stance with the AI joke is that like just entertaining the fact any conversation about someone that anyone could infer was me, which is exactly what happened. The only reason I found out about that clip is because someone listened to your podcast as it was originally made and shared it on their channel and was like, "Look, this is about Callan." And of course they were
Okay.
right because they understood because it's as much as you might think I'm not naming him out. I'm not calling him out. Like people like they know. Like they've seen the stuff that happened before that. You guys did not respond maturely to the joking song of the TTV clickbait thing. You guys got a little bit offended about me calling your favors videos clickbait because you were getting so worked up about the fact that he was just sharing Bionicle images that were getting the community excited because you were really scared that he was just going to trick all the fans, which uh, I also kind of connects to this line of reasoning, like that you guys are concerned about him tricking the fans with content that's not super clearly outlined, and then you're going to make reference to someone that you're clearly not happy with. Regardless, like you could have said, yeah, there's a guy who doesn't like us. What's that? But yeah, there's some really good stop motioners. You could just moved on right there. But you really entertained the question and were like having a laugh as friends. And I won't
Oh,
don't besmirch that. But
so
at
we're
that
not
point,
allowed to have a laugh as friends, but you're
no,
allowed to compare me to Harvey Weinstein
I'm
and
not.
claim
No,
it's
no.
a joke?
My point is that like, look, if you're going to act like, okay, well, we're gonna have a laugh, but we're actually going to be professional about it by not naming him. Like you got to be more subtle than that when it comes to calling me out. You know?
Okay. All right. So I think I'm picking up what you're putting down here. I think what we should have said was there was a guy who doesn't like us,
Yep.
because that's the only way that that would have been vague enough.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
That's clear. Yes, that's what I'm saying.
that is missing the forest for the trees. You're okay. In order to answer the question, which you advise, okay, there are a whole handful of things I need to respond to with that. So,
All right.
for starters, the question that you advised was someone asked why we had a beef with the stop motion community,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we responded with there's one stop motion animator who does not like us, has beef with us, and then apparently I referred to this person as a gremlin, a hideous gremlin who's a moth to a flame.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technically, I think Mezzo said the moth to the flame to be as accurate as possible.
Okay. Fair enough. How much of that identifies you specifically? How much
It's
of that is a specific indicator that we are specifically referring to Callan LOF?
it's not specific, and I I would argue my argument is that the context of it being a beef with the stop motion community at large
Mm-hmm.
implies that, like, if you're going to elaborate that there's a guy in the community and I'm
Mm-hmm.
basically the only guy still making content consistently in the stop motion community, it's not very hard to grasp, especially when that last Faber
But
thing was, I believe, at most a year old at that time, maybe a year and a couple months.
okay, so
Creepy Bibletube Soccer here. He said he can't think of who else it could have been.
and that's the other point I want to address. So this was apparently a video spurred on and instigated by Creepy Tube Stalker. You're claiming that this was something anyone could have figured out. But
Yes.
in reality, the person that figured it out is someone who identifies themselves as a creepy biotube stalker who would inherently be extremely high affinity when it comes to the bionicle community and being aware of drama. This is someone who is significantly more in tune with what's going on or what has happened because he's listening to a whole bunch of biotube streams. He's not like a regular lesser affinity. And I want to clarify because there has been some misunderstanding about affinity. Affinity means engagement. It does not mean greater or lesser in terms of being a fan. It just means terms of engagement.
So
Okay. This is someone who is,
you're not a user of fur affinity, to be clear.
I am not. Definitely not. See, that's a good joke. That's funny. That's good.
Oh, good.
So
All right,
my
we're making
point.
joke progress. Okay, and that's where I would say, like, the guy's name is a joke. Like,
Okay, and no, and hey, that's fine. I'm not criticizing him. I'm not saying he's actually creepy. I'm not saying he's actually a stalker. But what I am saying is that
I'm
he
glad.
is very in tune. He has his ear to the ground in terms of what's going on in the community, and he obviously listens to your streams. He watches your videos. He watches you as you discuss a beef with TTV. So when he said in the comments here that he took a guess as to who we were talking about and he ended up being right, he made an informed guess.
Okay.
Okay, but that cannot be used as a broad stroke example of the majority of people.
The
Okay?
majority. Wait. Well, I'm a little. I don't. I'm not exactly sure why we're getting so into the weeds about this, like the specifics of that. Anyway, considering my contention is everything that was after the Harvey Weinstein joke was calling up bad, like, you guys acting silly. And since I was able to infer, and by calling it out with very obvious jokes, we made them the videos we made after that were just kind of poking fun at, like, stuff that was written on the TTV wiki. The and
Okay. I don't I
I
don't know specifically what content you're referencing because I don't watch your videos.
fair enough, but I'm just saying, like, when your video painted the, like, that extra more videos that I've been, like, obsessing over you. If you don't watch my videos, really the only thing that you should broadly be aware of is, yeah, he made a Harvey Weinstein joke in a mod episode that was really nasty. He made a song that was, like, calling out our Faber stuff at the time. And then I think he made, like, he called us out, and, like, his friend made a video or something after our podcast where we referenced him not by name. Like, I guess one of my questions with that is, like, where do you get the narrative that I'm a moth to the flame from that?
Because you kept on talking about us, and
You guys
whenever
are
we allude
contributors to the
to you,
community,
you
and not that, like, and if I made a song parody Like that's the only time I talked with you about you guys, as far as I recall, after the Harvey Weinstein Mata joke. So
Then the song.
um yeah, the song's the only thing between as far as I remember. There might have been some kind of podcast thing where I popped in the chat. I can't remember. But even then, it's like there's maybe two other times that I'm like that you guys like. I can understand why you were still not happy with me after the Harvey Weinstein joke, but I didn't understand where this like. It, you say that it's a one-sided beef, but like where do you get the narrative of, and where do you get, how do you get to calling me a gremlin? I just want to be clear where that comes from, out of curiosity. In all of
I
this.
mean, here, listen. At the end of the day, like it's not me calling you a gremlin is not to suggest you are literally a gremlin. It's a hyperbolic
Mm,
thing. And
gotcha.
I think many people are well aware I speak in hyperbole quite frequently, and it bites me in the face often.
Uh,
So, I mean, listen,
so
it really,
that's what the tooth marks are. Ugh.
really, it isn't as deep as I think you want it to be. I mean, if you were upset that I suggested that you were a creepy gremlin,
I'm not.
I mean,
I'm not.
then
I thought it was funny that that you
I
guys
don't
were.
actually think you thought it was funny. I think
No, I
that
thought.
it
Well, can I finish the sentence at least?
go
I
ahead.
thought it was funny that that you guys thought that, like, me personally, it struck me as subtle, as not subtle when a guy brought it up, and with that video. And so I thought, oh gosh, these guys are still talking about me. Like the obsession thing goes both ways in terms of the vibe at that point, because like if Mesenak is adding in context that there was a stream I popped up on, I would really appreciate any context you could add about like what that appearance entailed, like me showing up in the chat of one of your streams, because I don't think it was out of any like, I'm not, I didn't have I never just randomly showed up to your streams without any kind of like thing that I specifically wanted to tease or joke about, as far as my memory is concerned. Maybe I'm forgetting something, and and there is something that I need to personally address with this. But Mezanek, is there any way you can pop in voice chat if that's easier, or no? Because he's been listening. I think I'm not sure if he's. Oh yeah, that's right. He's not in the voice chat. He's just in the group call. But I feel like that would help because I don't think LJ remembers that. I barely remember it.
I
Um,
think ultimately my sticking point here, and like if you want me to apologize for calling you a creepy gremlin, like I can just do that since it seems to have rubbed you the wrong way as soon as it was understood that I was alluding to you despite not naming you, knowing that a general audience was not going to connect the dots from our side.
I appre-
Like if
I
you want that, that's fine.
I appreciate it in the
Again,
context of
though,
wait.
the
If I could just
go ahead,
respond,
go
I
ahead.
appreciate that in the context of this call. It's not been some kind of big sticking point that I'm like I'm needing you to apologize for that. I oh gosh, I had a train of thought with that I lost. If you want to finish your what you were
My
gonna.
my sticking point here is that this is a point of contention in some respect that you are believing that us alluding to you in a derogatory manner, not naming you, not directing people to you, not trying to dredge up direct drama, but drama that was still instigated and brought to you to further in a public space. I do not believe that your assertion that this is somehow hypocritical in comparison to you making an allegory of me comparing to Harvey Weinstein. These aren't equal things.
All right. Well, you know what? I can accept that completely. But I still don't feel you've answered the question. Like, where did you get that specifically? As far as like the gremlin always looking for attention. Because sure, Mezzo said moth to the flame for reference to the stream, but like, where did you get this narrative that I'm like constantly just crawling up you guys' backs? And that like this is some kind of obsessive one-way beef. I made the Weinstein joke, then I had pretty good reason I felt for making that parody, calling out your clickbait. It seemed like you guys were really upset about that video, and I guess you don't
Okay.
remember. That's fine and
So
that's fair, but
so look at it this way. In this time frame, you have made 2 videos in some way referencing us, in my instance nefariously, and then innocuously with this song parody, right?
mhm.
2 videos about us in some way. In comparison, to contrast, we have answered a question addressing alleged beef and merely alluded to the idea that we had beef with someone in the mocking community. In the stop motion animation community, and we didn't name them.
Okay, well, in comparison, that's 2 to 1. I mean, I guess that's fair if
That's
that's your
no. That's
interpretation.
2 full direct videos versus us briefly answering a question in a live stream at the end of it. That was aside the point of the video.
Well, okay,
These
well,
are not equal. These aren't equal.
all right. They're not equal. But this is where, at the very least, it gets a little convoluted when it comes to calling out, and this is something that you actually had a problem with that original Harvey Weinstein joke, as far as like, well, maybe not specifically. You just mentioned it in passing that like, I'm not TTV. I'm just a contributor to TTV. Please don't lump me in as the TTV guy. The song was making fun of TTV as a group. I didn't call out anyone's specific names because I saw the content you
Okay.
guys put out as a group. And then the Harvey Weinstein joke, you found it offensive. You have full right to say that that is unequal, a really mean joke. It is still pretty obviously a joke, and it's not like I accept your characterization that it's unequal and that it's unkind, but it is a joke. You do still deny anything wrongdoing in the context of that joke. Uh, so it's like I don't think that those
Okay.
two those examples are
The,
equivalent to calling out an individual or referencing an individual.
okay. So
I
again, I'm going to address a few things with that.
yeah.
Okay. For starters, you are conflating my message to you saying I wasn't a part of TTV at the time for me not associating with TTV later during this specific situation. When I reached out to you, I wasn't a part of TTV at the time. I had been removed nefariously because of Kahi's actions,
Right.
right? But at the time this whole thing, this video thing went down, I was a part of TTV again. And at that point, I had not been in conversation with you for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, I am not going to agree with this notion that your joke is harmless because it's just a joke, bro. You're not considering the context in which that joke is made. I feel like you are ignoring it. The context is I was removed from a channel for reasons that were unknown. At the same time, Harvey Weinstein is being significantly accused of vile and heinous things, of which he was later convicted of. In fact, only a few months after your video, you specifically name the character after me. And your best defense is, well, you denied the allegations. Yeah, so did Harvey Weinstein. It doesn't mean anything. That doesn't make a difference. You
Yeah.
made a video
All right. Well,
using my voice comparing me to a convicted rapist. Okay? That while there was question why I was removed from the TTV channel, do you not see how that's wrong? How that is bad? How that is very easy for someone not in the know to consider as potentially correlated.
yeah, like it's it's a joke. I don't I don't understand like you can characterize the joke as mean, as nasty as it is. I absolutely agree that it was wrong the way
Nope,
I
nope.
handled it.
Sorry, you've got nothing. Okay, you've got nothing. It being a joke isn't a defense.
It
Okay,
kind of is actually. I'm sorry,
okay.
but
It's
wait.
not a good one.
Well, all right, fair enough. That is your opinion, but at the end of the day, I didn't accuse you of anything, and I didn't.
You just significantly insinuated it with my voice.
That was in the clear context of a joke where Liwa had been accused of the Harvey Weinstein things, and
No, no. In
he
the
was.
context of I had been removed from a group, and you capitalized on that to suggest that it was related to what Harvey Weinstein was being accused of. It was an opportunistic joke. You made that joke in the context of the situation.
That's kind of
That's very
what made
different
it.
from making just a joke.
Okay, all right. Well, fair enough. Var is saying it's not actually a joke. I, I, well, I apologized for the joke in terms of the way I tricked you into doing it. I shouldn't have done that. I apologize again. I am sorry for doing that joke. It's it's. I think we should probably move into the real AI stuff because,
I
yeah,
think so because
we're
I don't
getting.
think that this is not a winning argument for you. This is the situation. You are very clearly in the wrong for it. I
Well,
appreciate your apology,
I
and I
wasn't.
accept.
Well, I'm not
I
defending.
ex-
To be clear, I'm not defending the way I did the joke, but at the end of the day,
and
I will still
but you are
defend that it is a
defending the
joke.
joke.
I yeah, I
And
am
listen,
as a
you can
joke.
call it a joke, but what it is actually it's damaging. Okay, if I had made a video using your voice to in some way insinuate that you were a monster, you wouldn't be laughing. You would be extremely upset about that with good reason because it's wrong.
Maybe I would. I don't think. Well, at least in this current context, I definitely wouldn't. But
I don't think there's any context. You wouldn't find it funny because it is wrong. If I stole your voice and then used it to compare you to a awful person, that's not funny. It's wrong.
eh, all right. Well, at the end of the day, there are a lot of different opinions on like specific senses of humor and how to handle jokes. I'm happy to take the L on it. The reason, and this is what I kind of want to get back to, as far as with the AI argument. Shade Haxor said both of us are babies. Dang. All right. Well, I'll take the baby title. Um. Anyway, let's discuss like how we can at least look at the current context of things. The way I handled that joke back in the day was very poor form. I understand you're offended by the joke, and you are absolutely within your right to be offended by that to this day. As far as the context of the AI stuff, um, I really like. I am happy to hear all of the arguments around AI and your lack of comfort with it. But what was really informing your anger specifically around the AI? Because I with in the context of what your requests in your initial message, um, you were asking for a video that came out 8 months ago, to be taken down, and a video that took two that was made in 2017. So that was like to be edited. That's 7 years old now. Uh, you can say that it was damaging, but in all reality, it did not ruin your life. That joke. I think you can admit that. Um, and you can, even if you were very uncomfortable with it, and still look back at it with disgust. It didn't ruin your life. This short didn't ruin your life. The only reason that I'm aware you even are aware of it is because someone at a convention uh, believed it because I did display poor form in not disclosing that it was an AI line. Did you have anything you wanted to specifically lay out about why you were really angry uh, writing that message, or at the very least, you didn't frame it as like, "Hey, man, I know we've had a lot of issues in the past. Like, again, it's been 4 years since the last real meaningful interaction that we've had with as far as those highlights, as far as I'm aware. Um, so as far as I know, like from your end, you probably barely thought of me in those 4 years. So seeing that I did that 4 years later, uh, I can understand being a bit frustrated by it, but I don't understand why you didn't just come and ask me, like, you have no permission to use my voice in any way. Uh, you have an you have. I find the comparison you make to be disgusting. Uh, I find the use of the AI absolutely abhorrent, disgusting, and violating. Those things can all be perfectly true, and I don't blame you for having your opinion about them. What made you think that was going to be like a sympathetic way of reaching out to me after 4 years to acknowledge these requests?
So there is a lot to talk about with that.
All right, I'm
So
happy to hear that.
for starters, I think there are some good points being made in the live chat. Specifically in that A, there are different levels of damaging, and B, does something have to ruin my life for me to be vindicated and being upset about it?
No, no, it doesn't, and I'm not. I
Cool.
like.
All right.
But as I said,
Fantastic. And
that's your
there's
opinion.
yeah. So no, you're saying, hey, well, the videos didn't ruin your life, so what's the big deal? The big deal is that you stole my voice and used it without my permission, my
I'm.
consent, my awareness. In one instance, you coerced it out of me under false pretenses and then used it to make a joke about me being like Harvey Weinstein. Okay? These are inherently bad things. You asked me why I didn't come to you asking to take the video down. First of all, I did. I specifically phrased it, I am reaching out to request you take the video down. You have no permission to use my voice at all in any way. That's what I said. You also, you're now saying,
Yeah. Wait.
why
Here.
do you think,
Wait.
why?
Real quick.
No, 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 I'm not
All right.
done. I'm
All
not
right.
done.
Fair enough.
You also say that me using words such as abhorrent, disgusting, violating, why would I use those words if I'm looking for a sympathetic response? Because I am not looking for a sympathetic response. I am looking for you to realize what you did is inherently wrong. And I'm trying to convey as properly as I can with the English language how I feel about what you have done. I found it abhorrent, disgusting, and violating because what you did is you took my voice. And that on its own is one thing. But you also then just didn't tell anyone that it was AI. You didn't tell anyone it was AI. You didn't tell anyone that the voice that you used in the first video was coerced, that I didn't agree to it. You just let everyone think it was me and it was fine and that we were buddies and we were working together and all was well. And it wasn't well. It wasn't because you stole my voice. Okay. I didn't come to you with kind, happy language because I didn't owe that to you. Because my interactions, you have given an extraordinary focus to me and my friends on your channel. You
You
have
have still yet
several
to prove
videos,
that.
which I pointed out. I'm not done. I pointed out you have several videos, at least in some way, referencing me or focusing on me on your channel that I don't even know the content of. You used my voice to make this Harvey Weinstein joke. And now, most recently, you used my voice without my permission, without my consent, my awareness, my knowledge. You used AI and you used it in a video and didn't tell anyone about it. Exactly what sympathy do you think I'm searching for there from you who did all these things to me? And exactly why do you think you're owed kindness when you have done these things to me?
All right, I didn't think I was necessarily owed kindness. I'm thinking, and I'm not wasn't looking for sympathy. I'm looking for pragmatism. Like, if you want someone to do something for you, you especially something that, given your history with them, they're probably not going to be very willing to just take you seriously at your word. That based on the in my opinion, the general humorlessness and uh, rather sensitive behavior that you've displayed in the past about what were really obvious jokes and criticisms that had nothing to do with your character so much as just making fun of dumb decisions you guys made. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry that's so funny, but it's like
You're I have a history of being sensitive because you made jokes. I
I,
don't think that it is unreasonable of me to be upset that you compared me to a convicted rapist and that you took my voice with AI
well
and
that's
and
new
passed it
though.
off as mine.
That's uh
I don't think that's a sensitivity issue. Listen, you
uh
can criticize me and TTV all you want. Many people have, many people will, many people do. Okay? I'm open to criticism. I'm open to critique. I know I'm not perfect. I'm open to growing. Okay? But this isn't a sensitivity matter. This is you stealing my voice and using it for content on your channel that you profit off of and not disclosing to everyone that it's not me and that I did not agree to it.
I I think this is where the idea of like taking things way more seriously than you should in terms of how you're like assuming intent from the other person
It doesn't,
is
the intent is irrelevant because these actions speak for themselves on their own, separate from intent.
the
Your intent could have been for this to be a beautiful gift to me, but it isn't going to be a beautiful gift to me because you are stealing from me. You're stealing my voice. Okay?
but okay, well, all right.
What you did is wrong.
I would really appreciate if you'd just not like cut off every time I'm trying to respond to yell. Is that a
I'm
fair
trying to
request?
like I'm trying to emphasize my point because you aren't getting it. And this is the point I've been making for a week and a half.
Well, and I can't make a counter argument because you're yelling over my responses, man.
Go
Or
ahead. Go ahead. Give me your response.
you're you're you've made the context in the past as far as there being time between these things that like as far as you have sorry, I'm losing my sentence, but your you didn't detect any reason to bring up specifically beef on your end when reaching out to me after years. Uh, when we had no communication after you guys cut off all communications, like that's what you guys effectively did in that original thing. So you're gonna compare that in content and say, oh well, yeah, uh, it would make no difference then to just reach out. Why would I assume that I should even say anything about that? And yet now, when because you didn't have any kind of specific negative intent against me outside of you guys didn't want to continue the CBW collaboration, that was done. So your intent should be considered, irrelevant. Like you had no intent, is what your argument is essentially. That you had no, even though you were aware that I was upset, that your intent, it's not that it wasn't irrelevant, your intent coming back later uh, was not negative, and that I should not assume anything negative based off of the last interaction we had being you guys said cutting me off entirely and not saying a word to me ever again. Uh, when we were making videos and stuff together, and the only thing that happened that caused that was a joke about your guys' song parody. Like it's that you compare that it's presumably your intent there is holy and good, but then I can't have intent 4 years after our last interaction where everything that I've done since then have just been little jokes, little references in videos where you're a member of this community. I've made jokes. I've used your mock, and I make a little joke in reference to the last proper interaction we had, calling me a self-deprecating joke, calling me a gremlin with the maturity of a 13-year-old. Uh, you, you don't think the intent matters in at least asking about that? like just especially with the new territory that AI is. I mean, I've heard in a comment that you reached out to Essinger about his AI usage because you disagree with the Tony Wedgwood stuff. And I assume that you didn't jump down his throat about anything when asking him to consider how he was using it there. Is that correct?
I pretty publicly called him out on it, actually.
Interesting. Well,
Because as it turns out, I've been extremely consistent on this topic.
well, I mean, I guess that's ultimately your right to do that. I just think that's poor behavior. That's poor form.
It's poor form to call someone out for using someone's voice without their consent or knowledge.
Yeah, I that's like if it's not their voice, and I will ultimately stand by that argument.
Um, huh? Okay, hang on. I'm gonna be honest. You were very all over the place with your response.
A little bit,
I
yeah, I
don't
agree.
know. I don't know what your argument is.
Okay, well, my argument was that essentially, you basically just answered the question that you're not going to give anyone the benefit of the doubt with AI usage. So my
That's
argument,
not what I said.
um, okay,
It's
sorry.
not
Well,
what I said.
you're okay, fine. You're going to publicly, okay, yeah, you didn't say that. You just said specifically in the Essinger instance, you did
Would you like me to
a
clarify?
public call out. No, no, I don't think so. I think I've got exactly.
I don't think you do.
I all right, fine. Go ahead.
Okay. I am entirely willing to give anyone the benefit of the doubt. I don't give you the benefit of the doubt because you have not shown me any reason to do so. Because again, I say this, I've been repeating myself on this point because I think you are still trying to hold out hope that I'm going to concede any amount of ground here, and I will not. Okay? Excuse me. I did not give you the benefit of the doubt because you have not given me any reason to, because you took my voice twice. In one instance, you compared me to a criminal, a monster. Okay? And you have made me a focus of your content to an extent. I'm not saying it's been a huge focus. All I'm saying is that it has been to an extent certainly greater than we or myself have ever given you focus or attention. Okay? I have no reason to offer you the benefit of the doubt because from all of my experiences with you, it has been maybe not intentionally malicious, but certainly seeming malicious. When it comes to Essinger, I called him out publicly on Twitter. He made a cover of Move Along, and he edited one of the Bionicle commercials, the Anika commercial, with his cover of Move Along, and he used Tony Wedgwood's voice in it. And at the end of the video, he said, "Hey, my new cover is out now." Okay, that's an advertisement. He's using Tony Wedgwood's voice as an advertisement. And Tony Wedgwood definitely doesn't know about it. Essinger has clarified he tried to reach out to Tony to hire him, and Tony never responded to him. So we know Tony has not given consent, permission, anything for his voice to be used, especially not for an advertisement. So I did call Essinger out on that. And Essinger and I, we had a back and forth, we had a dialogue, and Essinger said, "You know what? You are right. That's fair. This is an inappropriate use. I should not have done this." And he took the video down. That's extremely huge of Essinger. Essinger, he understood and acknowledged where he went wrong, what he did that was incorrect. He corrected, he apologized, he took ownership of that. It's because Essinger is a stand-up person. He's a stand-up guy, and he's cool in my book because yeah, the intent wasn't there, but the intent was irrelevant. It did not matter because the action stood separately from the intent, which means he didn't mean to do wrong, but wrong still was done because he used someone's voice without their permission, a professional voice actor's voice, no less, for an advertisement. All right? And he took ownership of that error. He took ownership of his mistake. He owned up to it. He apologized for it. He took it down. He corrected it. It's good now because that's what you're supposed to do in these situations. If it's a mistake, if you've made a mistake, take ownership of it. Be like, all right, my bad. You know what? I didn't agree that it was my bad at the time, but I understand now that, yeah, that was my bad. I apologize. I am sorry. Thank you for letting me learn from this. I have a better perspective of this. All right. Essinger did a great job being the example of how to handle a situation like this. Essinger is a good dude. You have consistently failed to take responsibility for the things you have done. You have failed to take accountability for the things you have done. And you are constantly just trying to make excuses and defend yourself and your actions, to try and justify them, to try and paint yourself as an equal victim in this when that is in no way the case.
Hey, that's okay. I'm not trying to paint myself as a victim. That's the reason why I'm doing all this. And people are actually saying that I'm embarrassing myself by doing this live stream. I don't care. That was the whole purpose of this was to do an open dialogue. Like, I'm doing this video knowing that most people don't agree with some of my AI stances. Uh, but I'm doing it wanting to reach out and at least like just have a dialogue that I hoped would be a little more just generally respectful, especially since I have now, and ahead of us even conversing, deleted the content that you wanted deleted, which, again, you had asked me to do it. I, I laid out why I didn't feel like I was obligated to do those. Maybe I'm wrong. I will fully accept the criticism of the community, and I'm gonna evaluate how I should balance myself and balance things in this community. But I did really hope that we could at least for this conversation try and like keep the temperature a little cooler. And especially since we're having this conversation. So I would like to discuss it a little more if that's all right. I would like to say,
I Sure, if you want to discuss it more, we can discuss it more. But my whole point and the reason why I didn't want to do this was twofold. One, I didn't have anything more to say. My stance and opinion and my perspective on this was clear. It wasn't changing, and nothing in here was in any way. Nothing has changed my mind in this conversation. Second, I wanted to do this privately. I wanted to continue this conversation with you privately. But when you stressed for a call, I didn't want to do a call, but I also, if I had to do one, I did not want to do one privately because, again, I did not trust that you would not just record it and then snip things out to take me out of context. So
okay,
ultimately,
well,
I did want to do this privately, do this as you would say professionally, so that we could handle it maturely and not draw attention to it. That's why I came to you directly.
okay, well that's fair. You know what? I will maybe if we want to circle back around to more of the AI usage stuff, um, we can. I at this juncture, I'm happy to take your stance and and a lot of people's agreements at face value right now. But this is where, at the very least, I do think it was a little premature to just drop a video with like you and this is something you cut me off with a little bit earlier. You say that it was a request, but you then follow your request up with it saying that the theft of my vocal likeness via I will not stand for it. And that is a threat. Like that is you saying like if you don't just give in to what I have to say right off the bat, if you don't just in like I'm doing, I'm going to lay out my beliefs, just throw them right here and you have to listen to them. Would you agree with that?
No,
But how is you saying I will not stand for it a promise that you're not going to do something? Or in any way an indicator that this is just a request?
because I think that is a a wild extrapolation of the intent behind
Is
me
in,
saying I won't stand for something.
is intent important now?
You're trying to extrapolate that me saying I won't stand for something being a threat. I think that is almost an intentional misread of that.
I I really
Okay.
don't like that's the
I
what
I
that was one
didn't
of the things
see
that
if
stood out the
I
most to me.
okay. So when I say I'm not going to stand for it, I mean I'm not just going to ignore it. I'm not going to ignore what you did. I'm not just going to let you run roughshod over me and just use my voice without me speaking up about it, without me coming to you and saying, "Hey, I want this taken down. What you did is wrong. I find this violating. I'm not gonna sit by while you do this." That isn't a threat. That is me saying, "Hey, I'm here. This is why."
Okay. I mean, I'll well, we can move on from that. I you when you messaged me that day, I was really busy. Last week was a really big hell week as far as us getting ready for a big choir performance that we did on Sunday. So we were doing like multiple practices all week. I work a job that keeps me busy 10 hours a day. So I tried to respond to you somewhat like I was just confused at like how the jokes, like why you were taking that. I understand in the full context now as far as your sincere uh, hatred for AI, especially in its usage without your permission. Alex, I can accept that as a good and valid reason to want it down, but after 4 years of no communications, I said, you've expressed that request pretty rudely. You could have just asked nicely after all these years. And then I told you why I was busy, and you said, I'll wait your follow up. Why did you not follow up to that?
Because I said I was going to wait your follow up.
No, but that is a follow up. That's me saying what you've
No,
expressed is pretty rude. Why didn't you respond to
n-
that?
I think you're conflating a couple of things here. So you had said, "Well, you've expressed that request pretty rudely. You could have just asked nicely after all these years. I got a choir practice right now, talking a bit." And then I responded with, "I'll await your follow up." And then 3-ish days later,
Yeah.
you replied to me. So I
I was
awaited
hoping,
your response, your follow up.
and I was thinking as I was busy, I'm like, honestly, the reason I took a few days to respond was because I was thinking, okay, is he actually going to like try and I'm gonna I'm busy. I don't really have time to get into all this. Maybe he'll actually follow up and try and lay this out in a way that, especially given all these years of difference, like is being a mature adult. At the end of the day, if you want something done, you got to be an adult about it, and that's what I was waiting for.
I was an adult about it. When I said you have violated my autonomy by stealing my voice and I want it removed from your channel because what you did was wrong, I came to you privately about it so that we wouldn't be here right now. But because I didn't say it in specifically the nice way that you specifically wanted me to say it, that I would have no way of interpreting or knowing you wanted me to say it. And even if I had said it in a nicer way, you would have come up with a different reason why it was not nice enough. I don't owe you nicety when you wrong me like this. And also,
But that's
I
me.
was
That's
pretty
me
restrained.
without talking to you. That's me. That's you just assuming that I had ill intent and that
It I
that's you holding a grudge that you claim you're not holding.
I'm sorry. You cut out there for a sec. What was
I
that?
said that's you holding a grudge that you claim you haven't been holding. As I literally asked you, and you said,
It's
"No,
it's not.
I really don't think I don't have beef with you." But you
Yeah.
clearly
It
do.
Well, okay, so I have beef with you now, yeah, because you stole my voice twice.
Well, I stole your voice according to your description 7 years ago, and you you didn't ask for it to be taken down until now. So why
which I
not?
explained why. I explained why in my video. I stated that the reason I didn't ask was because at the time I had been removed from TTV. I didn't have the emotional, mental, or physical energy
We've
to try
interacted. We've
and deal
interacted
with a
since
drama like
before
that.
that. We've interacted before that. Why didn't you? And after your mental drama, why didn't you? If this was important enough to you, why didn't you reach out at any other point? Just
Because I don't think about you. I'm
then
sorry if that upsets
it
you, but
doesn't.
I
It doesn't
don't
upset me.
think about you.
It's just
I had moved on like an adult, but when this happened, I'm sorry, we're done now. I'm no longer willing to be okay with this. I wasn't okay with it. I'm no longer willing to ignore it anymore.
yeah. I I
This is this is so easily handled, okay? This is so easily dealt with because you see this as me in some way, shape, or form trying to impose upon your right to free speech, which is a misunderstanding of what the right to free speech is. You believe that this is me trying to force my ideals upon you or my beliefs upon you. Also, not what this is. Okay, what you did was wrong. You disagree with that, and you've only ceded any ground about this because the public has turned against you. The only reason you reached out to me again is because that video exploded. You got 10,000 views overnight, double what my personal channel subscriber count is. I don't think you expected that. And when it's obvious that the public perception of what you did turned against you, that the public was not on your side, then you were willing to come to the table and negotiate. Then you were willing to offer taking the videos down. But only if I hopped
don't
through very specific
wait.
hoops.
Well, I was doing that because again, in all of these discussions, you're like, I'm trying. You can see through the continued messages that I did try and like reason with you in differences of opinion, and you still were taking every response as basically me saying like, okay, I'm not willing to talk about this, or which I'm saying I disagree with your assertion here. I don't want to take my videos down. And then your response isn't, well, I do appreciate that you have an opinion about this, but this is how I feel about it. I would really, really appreciate you taking it down. Like there, you said that it goes both ways, that this is so easy to handle. The acting like you acted like an adult in all of this by browbeating me into apologizing for something in when coming to me with the angriest terms, and then now in your last statement and in previously throughout this night as well, uh throwing the worst possible interpretation of this call's the reason for this call's existence on me while we're talking it out, and I haven't even had a chance to, like, you're not giving me any benefit of the doubt in the way you're describing these things either. While we're talking about it, I get that you don't trust me. I understand that, but here I'm trying to have a dialogue. So this is again where I'm like, can we at least try and keep this as civil as possible? Like, I haven't, I haven't done anything. Um,
You haven't done anything?
no, no,
Is that
I come
mhm,
on, man.
mhm.
You just jumped on that. It's like I was clearly going to continue. I haven't
Shouldn't
done
should shouldn't
anything.
shouldn't have been
I haven't done
a sense.
anything in, huh? It shouldn't be a sense. All right, well, fine. You can be cheeky with that. I didn't do anything in this call to try and misrepresent you or build this whole thing up, blow this whole thing up further. Because I want to clarify that the reason we're having this call, I mean, in small part, it is I didn't like seeing all those messages, but really, as I said in one of my messages to you privately, I didn't detect this level of vitriol in those messages because at the end of the day you just send me some angry messages after years, and I don't really know you well. I don't know what really grinds your gears. I didn't know that this AI was such a sticking point, and you never threatened I'm going to destroy your reputation in this community if you don't do something about this. Like
Mhm.
this is how much of a big deal it means to me. Uh, all I see is you send a little request to YouTube to have it reviewed, and 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 then the video drops later that day, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And I'll admit, I didn't even watch the video before we did a stream. So I didn't respond to anything in the video. I tried to be as charitable to you as possible, knowing that our community was just going to make a bunch of jokes and just kind of laugh at the fact that, oh boy, I'm in the hot seat. Like I'm not. I am an adult with a wife and a child now. Like I know that doesn't mean anything to my maturity level in your eyes, but it should mean something to you in terms of what my priorities and focuses are in life, and how how seriously I'm going to take some internet beef in this community that, as I said to you in a recent message, I've been kind of on the sidelines of anyway, even though I've been blessed with a decent following. Like I'm honestly shocked the following drop off wasn't worse from some of this, but um, yeah,
Here,
I
I
let
have a response if you'd like.
sure.
Okay. So I do actually want to address a couple of things. We should wrap this up. We're not getting anywhere. This is going in circles. Um, but I do want to address a couple of things because I've obviously been reading all of the comments in my video and seeing what people have been saying and seeing the arguments from people in your community as to why what you did was okay or why I shouldn't be upset about it. And there are some people that have been trying to claim that both parties have done wrong here and that these wrongs are equal. And a lot of people, I shouldn't say a lot, a handful, and that is even being generous. A handful of people have suggested that something that I did wrong was bring your family into this.
Hmm.
Well, for starters, we haven't discussed your family this entire time, but you did bring them up first. And I think it's important to talk about that because the reason I mentioned your family was specifically because I feel that your perspective on AI use and the effort you have put into defending your actions here is directly harmful. It's harmful to your family. It's harmful to other people's families. It's harmful to people that are victims of AI being used to create heinous works featuring them. And I think that you aren't considering that. And I think your family should be your most important focus. And that's why I mention them, because I feel that this argument you are putting forward, that is just a joke, it's fine. I think that that is dangerous because it lays the groundwork to normalize that behavior, and it makes the argument for why other people using AI heinously is acceptable. Because my whole thing here has been you are making these arguments and these statements because you are not being empathetic to the argument that I'm making, and you also are not taking into consideration the great wrongs that AI misuse can bring. And that was my point. Okay. That is why I think you do need to seriously think about these arguments you're making in this AI use, because it is a very harmful, very potentially harmful technology. And we've been seeing people going to prison for misusing it in disgusting and heinous ways. And I'm not saying that you're going to go to prison or anything like that. That's not my argument. All I'm saying is that to me, it is a safety thing and it is an autonomy thing. It is me having the right to control how my voice is used by others without my permission, consent, and knowledge. Now, obviously enough, there are a handful of different things to consider, like fair use. You've brought up several times me being a public figure, but you've been conflating that with someone's likeness being in the public domain. It is an inaccurate. Um, those are not the same thing.
I've mostly conflated it with actual like parody law and making jokes
Okay,
and
but see, parody is one thing, but you are suggesting that because I'm a public figure, you can just do this. You can just use my voice. but my voice isn't in public domain. You don't have a right to use it.
It's not in the public domain, but it is a publicly traded
No,
file that,
no,
or it was.
no. That doesn't apply. That's not the same thing. You don't get to make a commercial with AI with someone that looks exactly like Tom Cruise and sounds exactly like Tom Cruise and this exact replica of Tom Cruise going, "Hey everyone, I'm Tom Cruise. You should go and check out Callan's channel." That doesn't work. You'll get sued because you're using his likeness without his permission or
They,
consent. You are
but you can,
lying to
but
people.
you can do a very good Tom Cruise
Mhm.
impression and pretend to be him and do a joke of him jumping out of a window and dying, which happened in, I believe, the superhero movie. Uh,
Okay, but
and
that's
and
still a different
it's
thing.
parody, but that's because it's parody. And like it's
Yeah,
actually a
okay, that's
very, very
still a
good
different thing
impression
though.
of him.
That's
Uh,
still a different
he's
thing.
I,
Parody
I
is not what you did. You didn't parody me. You took my voice.
and that's where I admit it was a mistake to not disclose that it was. I do personally think that the joke there, with the understanding that it's an AI joke, I think that that falls under parody. That it's
It is
if
not.
it well, all right. We don't need to argue about that because we're just going to disagree about it.
Because you would be wrong about it. Yes.
All right. Um,
Listen,
wait,
I
okay,
you
wait. Here's the thing. Can I at
go
least
ahead.
ask, like, you can justify bringing my family into it, sharing DMs because you've been great or wronged. This is still an argument for the the ends justify the means. And you, as just as like you would say, hey Callan, I'm concerned about your family because you're setting a very bad precedent for the community in general and for the world in the future as AI becomes more and more prevalent and these voices get more and more realistic, and it's going to be easier and easier for all the people who have all the internet access to do creative things with these things and not know which lines they can and cannot cross in terms of using some of this content and technology. Uh, in the same way that you're making that argument, I can, like, you have to admit that you're setting a really bad precedent in terms of I can just show someone else's private messages if they do something that I consider very, very evil to me. I can bring someone's family up on a YouTube video when, like, I've never met them, I don't know anything about them. I'm going to bring up a man's child just to make a point. uh, I'm not horribly offended by the family comment. I do think it's a line that's best avoided, but I do think the DMs especially is just a really bad precedent to set in terms of, like, in terms of handling arguments and disagreements, and trying to expose somebody online. And I would have been fine if you referenced quotes I said in my DMs. If you just kind of pulled a couple of them out of context because you're not showing all the privacy of what I've said, and we had a conversation. But showing all of that directly, it's I think that's very poor form, and I would at least appreciate an apology for that. That was a wrong thing to do.
I think stealing my voice twice and putting it on your channel to profit off of is poor form.
We've established that, and I appreciate, like, I I am sorry in the context of making you very, very upset, and I'm not trying to make anybody angry. While I might disagree with some of your characterizations and of what the voice is and how I used it being very, very poor form, I am sorry that I really hurt you in doing that. I genuinely am. I'm sorry
Yeah,
that I
I
hurt your.
accept your apology.
I appreciate
Uh,
it.
Again, it's not a matter of hurting my feelings. It is a matter that what you did was you misappropriated my voice. You stole it and you used it for your content.
I've given you
Okay.
this outlet to lay that out very clearly, and as some people have
Okay.
said, embarrass
I've
me.
had my
And
own outlet to lay that out very clearly, which I
right,
did.
no, 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 yeah, and I appreciate that. Like, I'm not.
Listen, here's the thing, because I don't think we're gonna make much progress here.
But
All
here's
right.
the wait. Can I say
What
real
I
quick? You just
what
completely justified something that I'm saying you did is wrong with something that I did is wrong, and you're just like, how is that not evading the question? Like
Sure.
was it a wrong thing to
Yeah.
do to leak DMs?
No,
Okay.
no, because for starters, I think that I actually it was better for me to show the full context of your responses than to try and snippet out pieces of your replies and
Hmm.
then be accused of taking your responses out of context. Secondly, I think Var in the live chat makes a really good point. You forfeited the right to privacy when you violated mine, or when you used
Uh,
my voice without my permission, my
I don't know
consent,
if
my
that would
knowledge.
I don't know if that would stand up in a court of law. But
I'm
that
not, and see, I'm not making a legal argument
fair
here.
enough.
I know that there's been some like rumblings from people going, "Oh wow, when you're getting the law into this, when you're threatening to sue." I've never threatened to sue anyone. I'm not threatening to sue anyone. Callan, I'm not threatening to sue you. I'm not trying to make this a legal thing. When I said that I would go through the channels available to me, that is literally what I have done. I approached you first privately to address this. You refused. Uh, your final message on this before the video released ended with, "I've apologized for the deceit, and as far as I'm concerned, that's all I have to apologize for. I have nothing more to say about this issue, and I wish you the best, even though you think I'm in the wrong here. Unfortunately, the feeling is mutual." Bear in mind, that is your last message before the video.
Hmm.
Okay. I tried to address this with you, and your reasoning for being unwilling to do what I asked was because I didn't ask nice enough. Okay,
Uh,
that's
All
not
right.
an equal response.
If all right, well, I I feel like as far as healing in this community and trying to, do things in the best way possible, that's the standard that I would appreciate to try and carry forward in the future because I
I
we can't turn this
Go ahead.
I'm not going to turn this into a whole referendum on you because this whole video, this whole situation is a referendum on me and I accept that. At the same time, LJ, I I really think that you've just completely put out of your mind the fact that there needs to be some humility in how you handle disagreements online in order to in order to make the best connections, in order to leave the best impression, in order to just be the most healthy person you could be when communicating with people online. Because I've seen some of the comments that I've gotten from people that have interacted with you on other things, or that have just seen how angry and worked up you got in that video, and that you went unscripted for so long that you brought my family into it. And I'm not trying to peg myself as a victim. I ultimately am not going to hold that against you. I don't think that that was some unforgivable sin. But it's really poor form that you really should try and consider when it comes to your reputation in this community, because I think I've tried to hear as much as and try not to get confrontational with things in this dialogue we've had here tonight. I've tried to let you say your piece as you've gotten pretty frustrated a couple of times because of how passionate you are. I understand that. I'm not holding it against you, but I just really think when it comes to trying to be the best version of yourself you could be as a communicator and handling disagreements online, you you could try a little harder to be the better guy, to be the better person. Like your argument essentially has been, you've gone so low, I'm justified in being as rude and unkind and and
That isn't my
and
argument.
sharing DMs and sharing if
It's not
you
my argument.
all right, fine, I'll leave that out. Just being as unkind as possible.
No, no. Being unkind as possible would have been launching that video without reaching out to you at all. Being unkind as possible would definitely be referencing other matters that do not pertain to the situation that involve you. Right? There are certainly significantly vindictive ways that this could have gone, and I'm unwilling to be vindictive. I'm not trying to hurt you, but I am trying to address the wrong you have committed against me. If what you are seeking is an apology for leaking your DMs and bringing up your family, then fair enough. I apologize. I'm sorry that that upset you as much as it clearly has. I
I
don't wish any ill will on your family. The whole reason that I mentioned them was to try and illustrate a point that I need you seriously to understand why I believe that this is so harmful. And I want you to be the best you can be for them. That was the point. It wasn't a harmful effort. It wasn't anything to try and drag them unnecessarily into things. It is because I genuinely, truly, fully, honestly believe that the arguments you are putting out here, putting out into the world, putting out to your audience are harmful. And I desperately need you to understand that and really, truly, genuinely consider that. Not because I just haphazardly believe that I'm right, is because I do believe it is a danger.
I could appreciate your opinion and the extremity of it and how careful you need to be with this stuff. I will try to be more careful and be more upfront and honest with stuff that I do in the future and with any AI
I
usage I do in the future.
just
But I wait if
just please leave me out of it. I
I
I don't want to be a part of your content anymore. If at all possible. Listen, I don't even care about the mock. I don't even care about the banner. You can do those things. It doesn't matter. Just leave my voice out of it. If you
oh
want to hire an impersonator to sound like me as best as possible, fine. But just leave the AI out of it. Don't use my voice without my permission, please.
I think it's fair to say that after this whole thing, I'm not gonna pull your AI out of context. Like I wanted this to be. I was hoping that at the very least, even if we would disagree on some things, because I did want to get into at least some of the, and we won't. We're gonna close this up. But I did want to at least touch on some of the the ways that humor and parody play a part in using voices. You basically touched throwing your arguments out to why those appeals wouldn't be worth it anyway. So I respect it. I respect that that you felt violated. I'm sorry that I made you feel violated. Uh, I will not be using your AI usage AI anymore. I I was hoping that a video stream like this could be like an olive branch and a way that we could just kind of let cooler heads prevail. I understand that a lot of your friends at TTV are basically leaving comments saying that I'm just being like, I'm making the worst arguments. I'm just an idiot. You know what? I accept all that if that's what they believe, and I would still like to have more conversations about this. My general outlook right now is um, that I think my intent with the way I used the AI specifically was not harmful. And I understand that you found it very harmful and wanted it taken down. And so now that I'm trying to, or now that we've come to at least some terms, and now that I'm, essentially owning up that I should have asked and I should have done it, um, that that is the standard I will especially hold uh, with you and with people in this community. Um, but I do think that there is going to be a lot of growth with this technology, and I think that there are going to be a lot of people who do misuse it, as you said. And I think that we've got to be as careful as possible in jumping to the public call outs and jumping to like, hey, this is evil what you've done. Like we do need to at least try to consider intent in general with other people. And I'm not making excuses for myself. I don't blame you for you did reach out. I don't blame you to some degree for having bad intent. I just would have appreciated you trying a little bit to appeal to my humanity, knowing that I'm an adult now, knowing that we've got other things going on, and knowing that in general, rude behavior doesn't usually get people to comply with you. And I'm a stubborn rockhead. I'll admit it. Um, but I really do hope that when it comes to negative feelings about jokes and stuff, those videos are gone. I'm probably going to re-upload the short without the line. I'm opening it up to you now since you said based on those 4 years that you would have even be willing to entertain the idea. I'm not sure if you really meant that in those DMs, but I'm
I
still
did.
okay. Well, I'm still opening it up to you that
I,
if
if you had approached me about it and asked if I would be willing, A, that is an olive branch, and B, I would have considered it. I can't guarantee that I would have done it because I am very busy.
yeah,
I've been able to do the video creation that I want to on account of my uh, work schedule. Uh, but right now, if you want to re-upload the video, yeah, just do it without my voice. I can't stop you from uploading a video of a mock that you are reviewing. Just again, just keep my voice out of it, please.
fair enough. Yeah, I I respect that. And yeah, I do really appreciate you taking the time. Uh, I know that I've probably not I've not made you respect me anymore in terms of my opinions in a lot of this. I hope that with some reflection, you can see that my intentions with this were pure. That with a lot of the baggage in the past, I've made some pretty serious mistakes, and this is uh, a the best way I could think of trying to do something that would be best for the community and really addressing things, talking them out, and just yeah, I know I'm just basically rambling a final word here, but I do
Well,
appreciate it. I appreciate the time.
fair enough. I appreciate. I can acknowledge that you did do this with good intent. I didn't trust that you were going to. I thought this was going to be a situation um, where I was going to get ambushed by you and a bunch of your friends. Which I mean, listen, was expecting something like that, and I still showed up. Um, but
I
I
appreciate that's what
appreciate
I'm thanking
that
you.
you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that you extended the offer. I appreciate that this was in good faith. Thank you for taking the videos down. That was all I wanted. Just wanted not even I didn't even want the other video taken down. I just wanted my voice removed from it. Thank you for doing that. I do appreciate it. And again, I can I can appreciate that you are saying that your intentions were good in some of these situations, and that's fair enough. And I want to stress, I'm not above critique. I'm not above criticism. I've made plenty of mistakes in the past that many people have called me out for, and that's fine. I'm entirely accepting of that. And that does come with being someone who is outspoken, someone that speaks passionately. There are some people in the chat that are suggesting that I'm bipolar. I can
huh?
assure you I'm not. Um, I think there
Yikes!
is there is some misunderstanding in terms of emphasis and emotional regulation.
Right.
But regardless, I just I don't want to do any of this anymore. So I would like to just move on. I want to go and do my own stuff. I'm not trying to interact with you. I'm not going to refer to you in any way. I'm not going to refer to you in any uh, snide, off collar, offhanded way without naming you, but suggesting it's you. I do not want to have anything to do with you. I just want to go and do my own stuff and let you do yours. We go our separate ways and just leave things be.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the best thing to do. And I will, one, I'm opening up that olive branch. I'm not going to jump right to re-uploading that video. So if you, if you ever have a change of heart, or if you ever feel like, you know what, let's try and encourage some, so let's really put this beef fully to rest. The offer is still out there. You could literally say anything you wanted about me. I would find it pretty funny if you found a seedy or
Fair enough.
a joke at my expense
I
in
will
that.
consider. I'll consider it. I appreciate the offer. I'll certainly consider it. Again, though, I am really busy,
Yeah, yeah,
so I
absolutely. No,
cannot.
no
I'm
pressure,
not going to promise
no pressure.
anything. I'm not going to guarantee anything. But if somewhere down the road that I can actually come back to working on videos, I will consider it. So I do appreciate the offer.
Ooh, TTV Mezinek said, "Say the gremlin thing." I like that idea. Last thing I want to just ask about is, how do you think we should handle as far as these videos that are still up, my live stream, joking about it, your video? Do you want to just leave these things as history, or do you think we should just let this be the final recap of it? What
I
do you?
I am entirely willing to take my video down and issue an update. I I'm going to be busy pretty soon here.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be able to do it immediately. It's going to take me a few days. Um, but I am willing to do that. So that way, because again, the video was not meant as a teardown. The video was meant to draw attention to the wrongs that have been committed against me.
fair enough.
So I am willing, however, to take it down because I don't benefit from it. My channel is not monetized. I'm not gaining from it. It's not the content that I want to host on my channel. I'm willing to take it down. I will issue a correction if you would like that, or not a correction.
Right,
Nothing needs
an update.
correcting,
Yeah,
but an update to let everyone understand where things ended up.
they're so gay for each other, dude. Let's go. I mean, hey, let's bring in the love, LJ.
Love isn't canon.
No, no, no. Wait, don't say that. Wait a sec. All right. Well,
I'm sorry.
if you want to unlist them,
I'm a farciest.
oh, see, this is where we got to next appearance together. The Faber Farshti War. Let's go.
Oh gosh.
Now that'd be quite the
Ooh.
debate. Oh gosh. And you'd probably wipe the floor with me on that one too. Um, but yeah, if maybe we should both consider enlisting the streams that we did, or my stream and your video, and just let them sit. Anyone who's got the link can revisit the drama, and yeah, at the end of the day,
Fair enough.
we got our own stuff going on. So um, I will keep your name out of my effing mouth, to quote my favorite
That
actor.
that works, but I won't actually slap you.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay. Let's go ahead and wrap this up.
amen. God bless. Peace out. All right, that's the stream.
All right. Fantastic.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for the time. Have a good one.